Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jared. What you've seen today is obviously a lot of in-depth information on systems that we've been working on. I just want to say, obviously, a lot of these systems are going to have to go through testing. They're going to go on a playtest server. Some of them may change. So this is as we stand today. This is how the systems work. Obviously, as you see from the justice system, there's absolutely no way that could ever be exploited. So it will work even with player guards. We're still going to have to do a lot of work to make sure. But this just basically shows what we're doing to make the game better. MMOs evolve from the moment they launch until forever. So this just kind of shows the evolution of the game, where we're taking different systems. And as some of the panel members said, I can't stress this enough, we can't do this without you guys, because this is where we get the information about where you want the game to go. So almost every one of these systems that we've done were discussed in detail on many internet boards, on our forums, on Reddit, direct feedback to us. So if you see things here that we've talked about, that you talked about on forums and on the internet, this is how we do it. So thank you guys so much for being a part of the community, because really, it doesn't matter how many cool things you see up here on stage and in the game without other people in the game. It's just not the same. So thanks a lot, guys. We're going to go into a Q&A here, where we're taking questions live from our Twitch feed. And we have Gina and Jessica over there from our community team who have been who have been moderating the discussion while this has been going on. So we thank them a lot for doing that. And they are going to do questions, and I think they're going to ask the questions. They have a mic, and then I'll pick who's going to answer. So we will go ahead and get started with that.
All right. Is it on? Yeah. Hi, folks. So we're going to go back and forth. We have a series of questions. We pulled some earlier, and we also have some that we've been pulling from the Twitch stream during this panel. So without further ado, Gina, you want to take the first one? All right.
Okay, so this first question is from the forums. It's from forum user Taz. He asks, werewolves are in need of updates. It would be nice to see their form as a toggle to feel more beastly. Are there changes in the works for werewolves? And if so, can we get an idea of what they might be?
Who wants the werewolf question? I say Nick takes that. Go ahead, Nick.
Yes, absolutely. There's some changes in mind, and there's basically two phases of them. So for starters, we've received a lot of the feedback that people have been giving, basically saying that the ability is too expensive and not powerful enough for the amount it costs, and also it just doesn't last long enough to sort of really give you that satisfying feel that you want, to turn into a beast and start wrecking face. So the first phase of the update is really just going to be to bring those things in balance, basically increasing the damage, decreasing the cost, increasing the duration, making it just sort of a holdover solution so that it's more viable immediately. And then the second phase is we really feel like it needs a lot more breadth of abilities. Right now you can basically do a fear and a pounce, and that doesn't let you sort of take advantage of defensive abilities or self-heals or utility type spells. So we're going to be doing a pass to add several more active abilities to the tree so that when you turn into a werewolf you have a lot more options in addition to just being sort of in possession of more raw power. So those two things will be coming out fairly soon. Certainly the first phase very quickly, and then the second one as soon as we can follow after that.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, so I've got an easy one for you. This is from Ringading92. He wants to know who's the old man that appeared in the Spellcrafting presentation.
I guess I'll just answer that too. Hi guys, hope you're not sick of me. The answer to that is a special stonemason that the Spellcrafting, the Mages Guild has conscripted to go ahead and make these for you. There's some lore surrounding him, so I don't want to spoil it. But I will say that you actually can get that costume and look like him too, so that's pretty cool.
This next question is something we've seen come up a few times recently. Will we ever see more character customization options like a Barber Shop? And that's from the guild, The Art of Warfare.
I think Paul or Jared should take that. I think Paul will take that one.
I mean, I know, Jared, if you don't mind me saying, I know Jared feels really strongly about this. They've actually been working on a lot of different customization options for players. So I think really the way we introduce it is going to be extremely important. And, kind of off the cuff, and again, like Matt said, anything is liable to change. The way I'd like to see this introduced is more of an RP mechanic where players can earn these and give them to each other. I think that's really a fun thing for people to be able to do. And so, that's something that we're working on. But I know the artists already have lots more customization options. So absolutely it's coming. It's just a matter of how and when.
All right, Gina.
Oh, so many to choose from. All right, so we had a lot of really good questions come out of the justice system presentation. This one's from GamerGuy11B from our Twitch chat. Is the offender caught stealing placed on a timer? Meaning, how long is he or she open to attack from other players in the cities, towns, etc. if caught?
So we have what we call the KOS system. I mean, that's an internal name. It means kill on sight. And you saw the bounty. So the more bad things you do, whatever those bad things might be, add to your bounty cost. And eventually, you get into a state where your bounty is so high, you're just considered a kill on sight. And until you pay off your bounty, you're actually going to remain kill on sight for a little bit. Now that may change as we're in development, but that's basically the crux of it. So we don't want you flip-flopping a lot, and the reason is when you have players who can enact justice, we don't want some weird timer going off in the middle of them fighting you where you suddenly are no longer KOS, and that becomes a weird situation. So I would say that if you're going to be a criminal, you're going to have to pay the cost.
This is from forum user Seismic. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. He asks, why do some quests get broken from one patch to another?
Yeah, that's a great question. Rich, you want to take that one?
Sure, I can take that. The real reason there is there's just a ton of moving parts. When we go and fix, a quest in one area by, adding in or adjusting, a particle effect somewhere, it's not necessarily always going to work either every time, or it's not always going to work under certain cases, under certain load. And so we do our best to make sure we don't break anything when we're fixing them. And QA does a great job to help us out with that, but sometimes that stuff slips through. And we always remedy that as soon as we possibly can.
Yeah, I think it definitely comes down to people play the game, especially in online games, much differently than sometimes than we think they are. And a lot of those cases are from just players finding imaginative ways to break the quest system without knowing it. So, but those problems have gone way down over time, so they're few and far between now.
All right, so the Bluebird from our Twitch chat also would love to know, after seeing that facial animation presentation, when are they going to see it?
Sorry, would you repeat the question? I didn't hear you. I just heard facial animation.
When is it going to be?
They
in
love
game?
the facial animation presentation. They're really excited to know roughly when can they look forward to seeing that in the game.
It's really unknown at this point. We're past the point, as you saw in the presentation, where the technology is working. At this point, it's more of a production issue, right? That when I was mentioning the 120,000 some odd lines of dialogue, 3 languages, there's a lot of there's a lot of scale to actually doing all of the face effects processing, validating it all through QA, and that's probably months of additional work, just making sure that when it does finally come out, it's looking as good or better than what you saw there across the entire game. So at this point, we really can't commit to a time period. It's kind of once we get past that large production point. But I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Okay, next question is from forum user Hassel Hoffman. He asks, do you plan on implementing a dueling feature for 1v1 oriented subscribers that like PvP but don't care for the huge epic war that Cyrodiil is?
Paul, take that one.
All right, so dueling, a very popular question, and one we want to address. A dueling system sounds very simple, but it's not always very simple. And the reason is because, can other players join in? How do you prevent them from joining in? Under what circumstances are you able to invite people? How do you not annoy people? That's one of the, there's a lot of things to consider. I think when we have the justice system fully in place, then we will have the tools necessary just by having that system in place, to which we can look at getting dueling in. We're certainly not against dueling. We think it's a fun activity. It's just a matter of when we can get it in the game.
I've got one from Erlex here in chat that I am desperately trying to scroll up and read. One sec. Okay, from Erlex. What are we doing to make PvP more meaningful in the future? Brian?
What are the future plans for the PvP system? Mr. Wheeler. It's right there.
Nothing. No, just kidding. That's just wrong. So you saw Imperial Cities coming into play, and that's something that people have been asking for a while. And that is actually a space that you can actually say, this is mine now, it's not yours, and kick you out. It's not just one keep, it's an actual very important zone that's now yours. That's something that players have asked for. More gear. You saw the Ebonheart high-level gear that's coming in. And then we're also looking at figuring out how to advance your characters more as well. So it's not just, the continued fight for Cyrodiil. There's going to be Imperial City added to it, as well as more gear to get. And we're always looking at other ways to continually add in to your experience of maybe giving you more consumables to use. That's been another request. So there's lots of ways we can expand PvP, but we want to make sure we're not detracting from the Cyrodiil experience and Imperial City soon too.
Okay, this question is from Leona. They're asking, when will we see some time sinks that are not related to fighting, such as mini games, housing, music system, horse races, stuff like that?
Those are all great questions. So some of those things are under discussion now. No promises in the future, but some of the things you heard in the presentation today were getting towards that, like the justice system and things. Even though there is combat there, but we are definitely talking about ways to broaden the system. We've talked already in public about making the fishing system more exciting. We've dropped some hints about horse racing in the past, and we're going to continue down that line too. So there are things that we're working on, but we will reserve the announcement of those until we actually have more information and we know kind of better when they'll come out.
All right, so Hans von Schmidt from Twitch has a burning question. Are we going to get new motifs?
Are we going to get more motifs? Go ahead.
Was it Hans Schmidt?
Hans von Schmidt.
Oh, Hans von Schmidt. All right. Yes.
A simple question has a simple answer.
I wasn't ready. This is from Kego. He asks, what are your plans for stamina builds to compare with Magicka builds?
Oh, great. Nick?
Hi again. That's a good question. It's something that we've certainly seen a lot of feedback about. So there's a number of plans that are in place about this. I'll go through a few of them. First and foremost, the one that we went ahead and already implemented, and that was to make medium armor have a passive that reduced the cost, similar to how light armor has a passive that reduces the cost of spells, so that would make it more comparable and you could have better sustained DPS out of stamina builds. So that was part one. Part two, there's a number of weapon-based attacks that are sort of in need of a DPS boost. Some that come to mind, uppercut, cleave, and several others that are particularly based off of stamina. So those are coming down the line pretty quickly. You'll be seeing some damage boost to those things so that they can be part of builds that are can sustain damage as well as some of the Magicka builds can. We're also doing some things to help bring some parity between spell crit and weapon crit. And for ultimates, for example, we're making it so if you have a really high attack power from your weapon versus from your spell, it'll pick whichever's higher, so that stamina builds aren't sort of weakened in their ultimate relative to magicka builds. So we're basically hitting it on a whole lot of different fronts because it's something we're acutely aware of. Magicka builds are significantly more popular in our metrics than our stamina, and that's not our intention. So you'll basically be seeing us buffing various stamina abilities until it gets to the point where they're more on par with each other.
All right, so T the Khajiit, one of our favorite Khajiit role players, wants to know, what do we have planned for role players in the future?
I did mention some things there for role players. You know, I think anytime you have emergent gameplay systems where you have things like thieving and you know the player guard systems, those are fun. But I also think the things where players can reward other players, where players can own property in the game or something like that. Like, you know, we just started with our the guild traders coming in, and I think those are systems that really appeal to role players. It's definitely something we're acutely aware of and want to make sure we get into the game. So I think it's just going to be an ongoing effort over time, honestly. We don't have shards. But I understand what you're asking for, absolutely.
All right, here's another one from the forums. The question is, the gold sink is way too high to play different specs. For somebody at vet level, you could be paying 20,000 gold just to respec one morph that does not perform as it should because the skill line is broken. Do you have any plans at all to address the issue of the respec costs?
So to sum up, Nick, respecs cost too much and discourage people from alternate builds.
I'm sorry, did you just say that?
Who asked that?
I'm sorry. That was the name I can't pronounce again. Seismic?
Seismic. All right. Well, seismic, yes. We're going to do a lot of things. So a few. First and foremost, we recognize that over the last two updates, and as well in this one that's coming in just a couple weeks, there's been a number of changes to abilities. So what we're going to do is for the first week that update 3 is out, we're just going to make respec costs extremely cheap, like one to 100 gold or something like that, so that you can mess around. I assume people would like that. So that'll get you some time to recreate the character based on some of the changes we've made or some of the things you found out in developing it. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and bring it back up to its full cost, but even that's going to be reduced significantly based off of what is probably 25% or so, so that in the long run we can encourage more total build customization. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a feature that is respec just your morphs, and that's going to be extremely cheap. I think a lot of the complaints about the respec had to do with, hey, I just want to change this one morph or advance in this one other different way, but the cost of doing that is actually the same as the full thing. So that's why we're adding that one feature, so that you can just kind of switch around your morphs, and that'll be significantly cheaper, like 100 times cheaper than would the full respec. So that'll allow people to do a good deal more customization in their characters and a little flexibility without making it just so that you respec before every fight.
To add to that, because it's the future of ESO panel, the plan for the champion system is that, as well with those passives, it will have a built-in respec mechanism where you'll really only have to earn a champion point to just respec the way you want to respec. So that'll be built right into that system.
All right, we have one from Lord Simmerg off of Twitch. Sorry if I butchered your name. This is a long one. What are the developers doing, if anything, to help separate PvP from having a role in PvE content? For example, PvP passives and active abilities giving those who PvP extensively an edge over those who may only wish to focus on PvE content, not wanting to feel forced to do PvP in order to compete against others in PvE content.
Nick.
All right, everybody look at you.
Hi, guys. I guess the answer to that, there's not going to be sort of a really straightforward one for that because it's a very per-case basis. I think a few of the things that they're probably referencing are some of the passives that are in the Alliance War skill lines, and I think a pretty good example is one like the Battle Resurrection. It used to be the case back in the beta where that would allow you to have a faster resurrection time all over the world. And what we did back then to correct for that was to make it so everyone had faster reses, and then that passive applied specifically to battle reses in Cyrodiil. And so I think you might see us take more care to do some things like that. I think probably what this is in reference to is the passive abilities on the Emperor, which are pretty minor in terms of their statistical bonus when you're not the Emperor. But it's something that comes up a lot in feedback about former Emperors being able to dominate various levels of play, and so it's something we look a lot at. And I don't have a specific change that we're going to make just yet, but we are definitely aware of it, and you'll know as soon as we come up with something for it, and we'll announce it to you guys.
To add on to that, one of the things that we feel strongly about is that we don't want this to be a game where just because you're good in PvE, you can't go in PvP and vice versa. So we've always felt very strongly about that, which is why we keep these things up, anything we introduce in the game should be viable in if you will, both systems of PvEP and PvE. So that's really important to us as well. So again, I don't expect us to keep going down a path of divergence. It should always be that you can go PvP if you want to PvP one night, and you can go PvE if you want to PvE the next.
So here's one that's been kind of a hot topic recently. This is from Emperor Clytus. He asks, do you have plans to discourage Emperor trading?
Emperor trading. Brian.
Matt has authorized me to fly to every single house and cut their hard line.
True story.
So in 1.3, we're going to be making some changes. We know that this has been an issue. I've been watching the forums like crazy about it. There's going to be several things we're doing to work on this. First and foremost, condensing the amount of campaigns from 10 down to 5. That's going to leave it so there's pretty much lesser places for them to go and hide and do this. Another thing is that we are increasing the amount of alliance points it needs to become an Emperor. Right now it's only 10,000 AP. That's going to go up to 50,000 AP in patch 1.3. We're also adding a very, very fast degrade rate to siege weaponry. We know one of the tactics that people are using is going to a keep, dropping 20 oil pots down on a corner so nobody can drop down weapons to really defend the keep if they wanted to. So when a weapon is not under control after 1.3, it's going to degrade really, really quick. And lastly, we're going to be adding a 3-day lockout to the guest and home campaign assignment, which is pretty big, considering some of the campaign's durations are going to get shortened to only 7 days, 2 weeks, and 30 days, along with the veteran and non-veteran campaigns, which have also been getting asked for. Those are going in 1.3, so we're making this the first batch of changes to help battle the emperorship trading. We're going to see what happens after that, and we'll keep watching and making sure we keep an eye on it.
But that's definitely, the kind of thing that we wait to see. Like I said before, we put in systems and players find ways to engineer themselves around it. So we'll continue to battle them as long as we need to.
That's a nice way of wording it, engineer around.
There you go. I think we have time for one more question.
I'm going to combine a couple then. So this is about spellcrafting. So Ring-a-Ding 92, Kendros, these are two combined questions. So is a spell tome a one-time use of the spell, or do you just learn the spell? And also, can we create weapon spells or stamina-based spells?
Oh,
Let me guess who's going to answer that one.
Yeah. God, I'm sick of me by this point. Okay, answer to the first question is yes, it's consumable, but you can make more of them. So it's definitely going to provide a lot of value to some of the more rare blank tablets that you can find out in the world. If someone's willing to sell a legendary quality, say Ultimate Conjure Flame Atronach off the top of my head, I suspect that would be an extremely valuable in terms of gold item that you might be able to trade to someone else versus something that's made a little more mundane, but you can keep producing them, and that'll definitely spread across the world as the system gets more and more users. The second question was, can you make a stamina ability? We have other plans to expand on different stamina abilities, but one of the spells that you can actually create is Restore Stamina from the Restoration skill. So I actually think you might see some more cycle builds based off that way, right? On the Sorcerer right now, there's an ability called Dark Exchange that you can use to trade stamina for magicka. And there's an ability in the Mages Guild called Equilibrium where you can trade health for magicka, and there's never been sort of the opposite direction, which is magicka for stamina. And that's something I think you might see a lot of people who want to, burn stamina builds start to use, because the magicka, doesn't necessarily have value if you're all focused on stamina, and that's a way for you to get value out of it.
All right, well, thank you, Internet. Thank you, Dallas. So it's been a great pleasure. Really appreciate it. I think we're going to have a meet and greet for those that are here in Dallas. And for you guys on the internet, we'll see you in Tamriel. Thanks, everyone.
This country is riven by civil war. The Emperor has fallen, and the ruby throne sits empty. Now is the time to strike. Throne is a beacon. Calling you to reign.
We were standing on the edge of discovery. A powerful technology with infinite possibilities. Instead, we let them in. Fused in an unholy union of flesh and metal. Now this brave new world has gone to hell.